today's training is kind of like a continuation of the training that we did last week. We're talking about just steps that are necessary to have a long-term successful career, kind of geared towards the final expense business. Like I said last week, that's kind of been my thing primarily for, I'd say, about 19 of the 20 years I've been in the business, just about 20 years, because it's going to be 21 years that I've been in the business come this February. So anyways, yeah, we'll just kind of continue off from where we left off last week. Good morning, Chris. How are you doing?
How's it going? Going better than it did for the Eagles. I'm excited to be here and talk about long-term success.
Sounds good. Let's go ahead and get started here. So, yeah, I'm just going to kind of go right where we left off last week. Next one, stop avoiding your fears. That's just one thing too. I found a lot of agents in the business or people that are just getting started. They're not comfortable. They need to maybe get out of their comfort zone. I think that door knocking is just something that a lot of times people are uncomfortable with, and you just kind of have to get over it. I've had agents in the past tell me, well, I wouldn't want someone just showing up at my house. And that's just not really the mindset or attitude that you have to have. Door knocking, I think, is very important because these days it's not easy to get a hold of people. It's not easy to get a hold of people over the phone. I've seen where seniors these days, they have their contacts set up where if your number is not in their contacts, it just goes straight to their voicemail. So if all you're doing is calling, you're going to be throwing a lot of leads away because you're never going to be able to get a hold of those people. So door knocking, I think, is essential, and it has to be a part of your business. We spend a lot of money on leads. And heck, if half of your leads are not answering the phone, then it's really like you're spending double on your leads if you're not planning on going out and door knocking those other leads. So I think it has to be a part of your business. If you're setting up appointments, that's great. I just think that, again, get over the fear of door knocking, get comfortable with it, get good at it, and you'll be happy that you did because you'll end up making a lot more money. When you have those no-shows on the appointments, at least you have some other leads to fall back on and you can go door knock them.
Adam, what are people really even afraid of when they talk about door knocking? Because I think if you can readily identify what you're afraid of and then find out that it's really not that big of a deal, then you can kind of push past it. But what are people afraid of when it comes to door knocking?
I think, honestly, I just think it's the fear of getting rejected. People don't like that feeling of rejection. And I think that that's just something that they have to overcome. I mean, heck, even if you get in the house, even if you have an appointment set, I mean, there's still possibilities that you're going to get rejected. Mm-hmm. You could show up on the appointment. They might not let you in. Once you're in the home, I mean, heck, you're not going to write every single person that you meet with. So I just think that the big thing is just that fear of getting rejected at the door. They just feel like right away people are going to be like hostile to them at the door. Like, why are you just showing up at my house? And well, again, it's all about mindset. If that's the mindset you have, there's a good chance that that's how it's going to be, that people are going to be hostile to you because that's how you're going to feel in your mind like they're going to be to you. But yeah.
I think it's normal though. Like what's normal is that what we do is normal. Like this isn't the first lead your client, soon to be client, has ever filled out. Stop telling yourself that. It's not. They've been door knocked by other final expense agents, by the cable company, by the electric company, by solar company. Like this is not abnormal, especially in the final expense demographic. So it's normal. Maybe if you're thinking it's not normal, it's because you're not a final expense client. That's a good thing, but it's actually pretty normal. Rejection. Are you proposing marriage? What are you really that afraid of rejection of? You've never met him. You won't see him again. If they reject, you go to the next person. Like if we can realize the fear about what's holding people back is not relevant, then maybe they won't even be afraid of it anymore.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense too. I mean, you're right. I mean, that's just it's part of the business. Getting rejected is part of the business and you just move on to the next. If they don't give you the time of day, we've talked about this. You have to have that mindset that you're just there to help. You're there to help them with something that more than likely they probably need. And if they don't want your help, well, then move on to somebody else that's willing to let you help them. So, and then let, us see what else we had on here was, and then the presentations, the presentation as well. Sometimes I think that maybe people are hesitant to get out in the field because maybe they don't feel like they have prepared enough. And they're like, well, I just don't have my presentation ready. I don't know exactly what to say when I get in the house and everything else. To me, I mean, for one thing, do your job. Part of your job is to learn it and to get good at it. But the best way to learn it is just by going out and doing it. I don't think I ever sat and practiced a presentation with anybody, to be quite honest. I went out in the field. What I would do, actually, there was a presentation that I used to listen to. A guy actually was on YouTube, and I found this presentation that I liked. This was years ago. And I just kept listening to it over and over in my car while I was driving around on my way to my next stop. All day, I'd just be listening to this presentation. I would like ingrain it into my head. And that's how I got comfortable with it. The more I listened to it, the more it became more and more natural. So, but again, yeah, do your job, learn the presentation, but don't let that hold you back from going out to see people because you don't feel like you're ready to present to people. And let's see, next one we have is work at least 40 hours a week. Again, this is a full-time job. It's a full-time career. And I think that maybe more agents have to treat it like a full-time career. I think, and we're going to talk about work ethic in a little bit, but I think that's one thing. I mean, I feel like a lot of people that fail in this business, they just don't put the time in. They will work their appointments when they have them. If they don't have appointments, they're just at home. They have maybe too many other distractions. You can't treat this like a hobby. Someone once told me not to be a cab driver. And basically what they meant was don't do stuff for other people that's going to hold you back from yourself being successful. Don't cut off at 3:00 because you got to go pick up the kids at school. Find somebody else to pick up the kids at school. Don't cut the grass on Saturday when you could pay a kid in your neighborhood $20 to cut the grass. When you could take that time to go out and see some people and make some money. So again, you got to be willing to put that time in. You got to be willing to at least work 40 hours a week. People that we're working with, I mean, heck, a lot of them are still working. We talk to people that are under the age of 65. They're working during the day. If you can't reach them during the day, well, heck, you're going to have to go out there at nighttime. You're going to have to go after 5:00. You're going to have to go out on Saturday. If you want to get the most out of this, you got to be willing to put that time in. Wouldn't you agree, Chris?
I've learned the more you work, the easier it gets. Like, this is all purely a numbers game. And we say that, I think, every single week, which is fine because then someday somebody will hear it and believe it. But the more you work, the easier it gets. So if you start your day at 10 a.m., which is what I do, and I see 3 to 4 people a day, I know if the first one or the second or the third doesn't work out, by the time I get to the fourth, statistically, it's more and more in my favor. The longer you work in the week, the better it gets because you're putting more and more odds in your favor. People are so hesitant to go out on a Friday or a Saturday morning. But if you had worked all week and the week hasn't worked the way you wanted it to, eventually, statistically, you're going to break through. Like, it just has to happen. People, and it's also not the amount of hours, but also the amount of people you see. It's nice to say that you're working 10 to 6, but if you're just driving in circles across Metro Chicago or Philadelphia or somewhere in between, you're not working. Like, you got to be in front of the people. And if you put in the hours, then you see the people, you literally can't fail. Like, I was not good at this when I started at this, but I brute force effort it. 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., 5 days a week. I saw 12 to 15 people in the process of doing that, and I wrote 3 to 4K because of it. That's it.
Yeah, that quote we talked about a few weeks back, the week I think I wrote like 8,000 in 3 days. We talked about it. And that one quote I put up there that just says work is the only time when you're sitting in front of somebody that
Mhm.
can say yes to your offering. Everything else is preparatory. So, same thing. I mean, that's mindset. You got to kind of have that in your mind. The only time I'm really working is when I'm sitting in front of somebody. So I need to get out there and work as much as I can because I need as many opportunities to sit in front of those people. That's how you're going to be successful. That's how you're going to make money.
I think
Uh,
people also have to recognize that there's generally an hourly wage, which is based off of their statistics, their numbers, and their production. Let's just say you're worth $125 an hour, which is pretty damn impressive. It's like a lawyer wage. $125 an hour, but you're going to run a errand to go pick up things at the Walmart instead of being in the field. Like, is that worth $125 an hour of your time? Like, be real about this. Your time is really, really valuable, and when you respect that boundary, your free time becomes even more profitable and fun.
well, yeah. I mean, heck, even if you have to eat lunch, pack one. Don't stop. I mean, you stop. I mean, heck, that could be an hour, like you just said. I mean, heck, if you're figuring your hourly wage at $150, well, then you stop for lunch. You just cost yourself $150.
Yeah.
Uh, Pack yourself a lunch if you have to. Me, I probably should eat lunch, but I usually don't. I have breakfast in the morning, and then I'm just nonstop all day when I'm out in the field. I don't like
Adam,
stopping for anything.
no, I've never ever stopped for lunch on a field day. Like that's blasphemous. Like what are you even talking about? I had a situation. I don't even get gas in the middle of the workday. You get it before you go out in the field because I made the mistake 2 weeks ago. I had to stop for gas in the middle of the day. I knew it was going to happen. I knew I messed up, and I almost missed a potential Medicare client at that stop because I had to stop for gas.
Hmm.
That tank of gas not only would have cost me my hourly wage, would have cost me $200 to $350 of revenue from that enrollment, and then however long she kept it, that was nearly a $600 tank of gas because I was unprepared for the amount of time I was going to be in the field. Like our time really is that precious, and we should be that militaristic about it.
Well, I would say the best thing you could do is every night on your way home, stop and top off your gas tank.
Mm-hmm.
That way, when you wake up in the morning, I mean, heck, the last thing you want to do is wake up and you have an appointment, and then you realize that you're on E, and and maybe you just set up enough. You had just enough time to get your appointment, and now you got to stop for gas first. And who
No.
knows? I mean, with just that 5 minutes that it took you to pump gas, that person could have left their house. So yeah, I think the best time to stop and get gas would be in the nighttime on your way home from work. So that way, every day you're, clean slate, full tank of gas. Let's go up, let's get going for the day. Uh, have more reasons why you should be working and less excuses why you can't be working. Uh, and again, this just goes from experience, unfortunately, with working with a lot of agents where maybe we have some of those hard talks and we talk about what's going on, you have the leads, you have the training, what is it, what's holding you back? And majority of the time it's more excuses why they can't be working. I didn't feel good, I had a cold, my car's not dependable and it's cold out. I had a guy tell me that he couldn't work once because it was raining and his windshield wipers were broken. I mean, there's so many excuses. I mean, I could say, well, today's, the sun's coming out. It's really nice out, and more people are probably going to go out and run errands today. It's probably not going to be a good day to catch people.
Oh my gosh.
There's so many reasons you could come up with many excuses, but I think people need more excuses why they need to be working. We're not making a salary. I mean, you're only making money again when you're sitting in front of people. So to me, and again, we're going to talk about work ethic in a little bit. I think that you need more reasons why you need to be working. I mean, heck, we all have bills. I got a pretty hefty mortgage. I mean, that's always on my mind. I got to do whatever I can to go out and make money. So, You just need more reasons why you need to be working and less excuses why you can't. And if you know what, and if you can't handle that, then maybe go get a 9 to 5 hourly wage job.
Yeah, it's not for
Uh,
everybody.
yeah.
I think there is 1% reason to deviate from your routine, your system, your schedule, your lead investment, and your weekly goal. 1% reasons. And when you hold yourself to that kind of a standard, that there's like 99% of the time, there's not a reason to deviate from these standards, then you don't. Like, did anybody die? Nobody died. Okay. Do you have to go to court? No, I don't have to go to court. Are you physically so ill you should be in the hospital? You're not. Okay. Is this a once in a lifetime event that your kids are having? It is. Okay, there you go. There's a 1%er. Like, be that realistic about stuff. And when you're that realistic about stuff, then guess what happens? You don't have to check the price on the things that you want to do. You get to do the things you want to do. You don't fall behind on the things. Like 1%. That's the only deviation acceptable from the norms. And that's what I practice.
Well, yeah. And, we talk about that. Like, I've had stuff where actually, like, not last week, the week prior, my girls had a cheerleading competition, and it was on a Thursday. So Thursday is one of my field days, but this was their state competition. We actually took them out of school. They were out of school for this thing, and it was all day. So but I had to make up for that. I knew that Thursday was going to be a day that usually I work. Well, now I'm going to have to make up for that time another day. And I think that's something maybe a lot of people don't do. Maybe they'll take that time off, but then they're not going to make up for it and maybe work a day where maybe they usually are not working. Maybe usually someone doesn't work on Saturday and maybe they had something to do on Friday. Well, then go out and work on Saturday. I mean, you could go out and work on Sunday if you want to. I've written business on Sundays. Again, same thing. I mean, it's all mindset. If you think people are going to want to see you on Sunday, they're not going to want to. But most of the time, I've gone out, door knock leads on a Sunday, and I've rarely had someone be like, "I can't believe you're here on a Sunday."
Yeah, it's not the thing. You got to find reasons to work and to stick to your routine and accept that most of the reasons that you say to yourself you don't want to be working, they're not valid.
Exactly. And keep up with your business. We talk so much about what it takes to be successful when it comes to writing business. There's more to it than just that. You got to keep up with your business. Final expense, I think it gets a bad reputation with the persistency issues in that. But I think that there's ways to overcome that just by learning how to do things the right way. For one thing, setting draft dates properly.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. The 4th of the month is not a draft date.
Yeah.
It's not. Stop charging back.
And that has to do with staying in control of the situation. Mm-hmm. When you ask your client, this is on a draft or this is on a bank draft, what's a good date? If they tell you the 5th, don't just write down the 5th. If they tell you the 5th, say, okay, well, when do you get paid? Ask them another question. When do you get paid? Well, I usually get paid the 1st or the 3rd. Okay, well, we'll set it for the 3rd then. And it's always going to be paid on that date. Unless it's a weekend, we'll actually take it out the last business day prior. So that way we're taking the money before they can touch it. But that's that's a big part of it. But you're still going to get emails of NSFs, things like that. You got to stay on top of that stuff. Get in touch with the client, call them. If you can't get a hold of them, go back out there and door knock it. They answered the door when you showed up to write the business, right? So, go back. Hey, it's Adam. Remember me? I was over last year. I noticed that your payment didn't go through, and I was just a little concerned. I mean, I know that you need this, and I'd hate to see something happen, you not be covered anymore. So, what can we do to help you, make sure that you don't lose this? I mean, it's as simple as that, and your clients care, honestly, or they appreciate that you take that effort. A lot of times, they don't even realize that the payment was missed. Mm-hmm. And it takes someone like us sometimes to show up to say, hey, just like you had to show up the first time to help them write the policy, you got to show up again to help them keep it on the books. Part of our job. That's what we get paid renewals for. We get paid renewals to keep our business on the books. That's kind of how I look at it.
Part of renewals is essentially a servicing fee.
Yeah.
that you're getting paid to service the business. And guess what? When you go back and you service the business, you'll sell more business. You'll catch somebody that's home. You'll catch a new need. You'll catch a replacement opportunity. Like this is not a churn and burn, a one and done type situation. You're planting seeds in a garden that you can take and reap later on. Like I think it's simple. Like take 1 hour a week and go through your emails and your carrier websites and your situations like that, and then take a piece of paper. Hold on, this is this simple, and write down if they're falling off the books. That's it. That's literally all I do. Like I don't have a $3,000 CRM that tracks it and reports it and flashes colors. I go through my emails. I write it on a piece of paper. And when I need an hour to go see somebody, I go see this somebody. And most of the time, 1 out of 4 times, I can fix the problem, rewrite the business, or I pick up additional business simply by being in the home.
And I'd recommend add those contacts into your route. So when you're out seeing people, maybe you have your appointment set. When you have those no-shows, well, good time to catch up with those lapses, or the or the ones maybe they haven't lapsed yet, but are on the verge of lapsing. I mean, that's, hey, again, like you said, service work, and we're getting paid renewals to write good quality business that's going to stay on the books, and that's part of our job, to try our best to keep it on the books. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. I've taken agents out and had some really good days out in the field where sometimes maybe we don't even have appointments set. I mean, I remember one time, I think I wrote probably like 6,000 in premium in a day.
Nice.
Brand new agent, sitting next to me. And sometimes I think that I don't really like when I have that good of a day when I'm with an agent. Like, yeah, I'm happy. I wrote all this business, but a lot of times the agent then thinks that this is just going to be a breeze. Like every day is going to go that way. And I tell them, like, 2 things you got to remember. This isn't every day, and I've been doing this for 20 years. Sometimes I make it look easy. So, those are things that, the longer you do this, the better you're going to get. But you just got to remember the good days are going to make up for the bad, and not every day is going to look like this. But I've had agents that have seen days like that. They go out the next day, they struggle, and they're done. They're like, this is not for me. And that's where, like I said, I just kind of feel like you got to realize going in, this is a marathon. It's not a sprint. Nothing's just going to happen overnight, especially if you're brand new and you're learning it. I mean, there's a bit of a learning curve there. So, it all takes time. You're going to get better and better the more you do this. But like I said, you just got to remember, focus on the long term. Don't focus on the now, and you'll be successful.
Yeah, I don't think you develop competency at a thing, be it final expense, Medicare, or one of those in betweens, until you've done it 100 times. Like you've given 100 presentations, you've acquired 100 clients. How quick can you do that? Will get you to that point of competency, and then you can kind of tweak and adjust from there. But any job you have, you're going to have a bad day. Like, let's be realistic here. We're all adults watching this, hopefully. I've had bad days at other jobs. I didn't get to walk off the job and go home. Like, that wasn't an option. I took a walk around the hospital and got back in the truck and took the next call. Like, things are not always going to go well, but you have 365 opportunities over the course of the year for it to even itself out. So play the long game is so important in having long-term success in your career.
I mean, I've had days where I'll door knock 30 leads and not catch anybody at home, or just get doors slammed in my face along with nobody being home. And I'll go out and work the same leads the next day and have completely opposite results, where I catch those same people at home. You got to be persistent. I mean, I talked about that that week a few weeks ago, where I did the $8,000 in the 3 days. I mean, there was a lead I remember I had tried multiple times, 3 or 4 times, to catch that person, and I was in the area. Why not try again? And was actually finally able to catch the person at home, and wrote a pretty good policy. I think it was like $92 a month. So I think a lot of guys maybe would have already given up on that lead. So you just got to be persistent. You got to know, like I said, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. Not everything's going to happen today. You just got to keep going with it.
Yeah, I've had days where it just absolutely blew, like sucked. Like this is not fun. And I showed up, I did the hours, I worked the day, and I didn't give up. And I worked the next day. And then the next day, it's almost as if it was easy. Like people are calling you, I'd like to purchase insurance and at $100 a month or more. Oh, okay. You know why that's happening is because you wrote it out yesterday and showed up today. Where most agents in the industry would have given up yesterday and then not shown up today and would have missed that easy lay down opportunity that the numbers game gives you.
Yeah. Yeah. It was crazy too. I mean, that house, I remember, I showed up and she was like, oh man, yeah, I need this. I really do. I think her husband had recently passed and, it affected them financially. I don't think he had enough insurance. The daughters were in on it. One of the daughters happened to be there at the time. She's like, yeah, mom, you need this, do this. Like it was basically a laydown. It was probably the easiest one that whole week that I wrote. And, but I very well could have not even have shown up on that appointment or that lead because I had already tried, I think at least 3 or 4 times and just hadn't caught the person at home. So sooner or later, they're going to be home. And then, just a little break in the training for a minute. Again, go to adambrsan.com, sign up for the trainings, and you will receive an email every week of the coming topics. And remember, these trainings every single Monday morning, 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central, and we broadcast live on the Insurance Life and everything in between Facebook group page, on my Adam Brsan Incorporated Facebook page, on LinkedIn, on I think what else am I on? I think not TikTok, Twitter or X, live on there as well. And again, these will also be on YouTube as well. So, but yeah, check them out. I think the best way to watch it is live. That way, if you have questions, we're here to answer them while we're here live. Number 19 here, don't fear failure. And again, we talked, the first point on here this morning was stop avoiding your fears. This kind of maybe goes into that a little bit, just the fear of failure. And I think that's something that holds many people back really in any profession. When you start to fear failure. I've seen situations where people have done really well in a business and it gets to the point where they're doing so well that they start to think more about preserving rather than growing. They're fearing they're fearing their losses. They're fearing losing rather than moving forward. And it's like the more you start to think about losing, the more you start to think about losing, well, that's what's on your mind is losing, and your production's going to continue to just drop. You always got to continue to focus on growing and building, whether you're building an agency or whether you're just personally producing. You can always focus on setting those goals too and just getting bigger and better. And but you can't focus on the what ifs. You got to focus on the fact that it's going to work as long as that's how you feel.
You know what's crazy about quitting, Adam, is that no one's going to fire you from being an independent 1099 insurance agent. Like no one, you can't get terminated by the carrier for being a butthole, but no one's going to be like, Adam, we're letting you go today. You fire yourself, but also it doesn't happen overnight. Like you don't come into the office and get fired from being a final expense agent. It happens from micro quitting yourself on a regular basis. Like, oh, I'm going to skip leads today. No, you actually just micro quitted your business for a week. Oh, I'm not going to go into the field because my foot hurts. Well, you just micro quit for the day. And then you don't fail like overnight. You don't wake up one Monday and be like, congratulations, you have failed the business. It happens like progressively to the point where you don't even notice that it's taking place until it's happened. And then you don't have any other choice but to go back and get a job. It takes place over 6 weeks or 6 months. It's crazy to see it happen with people because it's tragic when it does. But failure doesn't happen overnight. It's a long-term decision-making thing that you've done to fail yourself.
Yeah. And I think you just kind of have to make a habit you have to make a lot of habits, I guess you could say, to be successful. We talk about the consistency with ordering leads and setting a schedule. I mean, just any little thing. I mean, heck, every morning I wake up and I make myself like a green shake, and then I make a protein shake, and then I get myself an energy drink. It's like my routine. I have that routine. It's like you just, as an agent, you need to maybe add more and more things into your routine, and you never really want to move away from those habits, I guess you could say, that where it should just be a routine every day. Because yeah, you start to change things. Uh, it's like everything compounds. First you're maybe not ordering leads one week, and then, well, you don't have enough leads to work. So then, well, what's the point in going out every day this week? I don't have enough people to see anyways. It just starts to like the domino effect. So you just got to have that routine and stick with it. And if it's not broken, you don't need to try to fix it or make adjustments. And keep it simple. Uh, that's something I've always been about. Yeah, I this year I did go the broker route, started adding more and more carriers, but I mean, of the carriers I'm contracted with, I'm not using all of them. I mean, I'm all about keeping it simple. You find a company that you like doing business with. If you don't have a whole lot of trouble getting your business issued, uh, I always think about too, a lot of these companies, they have different incentive trips, different bonuses. If you're writing business with like 20 different companies, how are you going to reach those sort of achievements? How are you going to be able to make a company trip if you're spreading your business out all over the place? Honestly, too, I mean, I think that it's harder to keep up with your business. It's harder to keep up with chargebacks if you're writing business, if you're spreading it out all over the place. Easiest way to keep up with chargebacks is just when you're consistently writing, if you have like your go-to carrier, that go-to carrier, I'd be real surprised if you had chargeback issues, because you're always going to have something in the fire that is going to be there. If for some reason something falls off, you already got something there that's going to clear it up.
Yeah.
And it's good to have maybe, those little niche carriers. I'm sure you would agree, Chris. You probably have a primary, and then you have those niches that every once in a while, that primary, if they're not going to insure the person, or you can do better, well, at least you have a good option B or a good option C. But unfortunately, I feel like a lot of agents are contracted with 20 different companies under their IMO just because the IMO wants to make sure they can't get those contracts somewhere else. It has nothing to do with the fact that they're probably not going to need them. They just want to like hold all that over the agent's head. My opinion, I just don't feel like you really need all that.
I think you need 3 primary companies. Like, this is a good practical tip as we're talking about success and long-term stability. As a personal producer for years, I leaned on 3 companies. One company that took 85% of the business I would write. Like, almost all the time. It was competitive. It was liberal. I understood the process. I understood the back end of it. It took direct express. Like 85% I could place with. Number 2, it was like that 10% situation, a weird underwriting niche or an older or a younger person. And then the third carrier was like GI, or the 4% or less of my business type situation. And here's another useful tip. You can have other carriers, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 other carriers, but not all of them need to be on full bore 9-month advances. You can have a 6th carrier in your lineup, a 7th carrier in your lineup, somebody you think you need to be competitive in a once-a-month situation, and they do exist. But you can have them on a lower advance or as earned. There's nothing wrong with building up good as earned income and not putting yourself in chargeback hell because you're in chargeback avoidance. Well, I'm not going to write that one because I owe that one money. And now I'm not going to write that one because I owe that one money. And guess what happens? The money doesn't go away. It either writes itself off or becomes somebody else's problem. So less is more when it comes to how many carriers you have on advances.
I like that idea. That's really good. After your 2 or 3 primaries, yeah, you set everything else up on maybe a 6-month advance, or maybe even like you said, even like a as earned. That's definitely going to protect you. And again, when I was primarily well, when I was working with my last company, where, I mean, I was contracting agents just with that one company. And the people that had the worst persistency issues were those that were just writing business here and there, where they'd write a piece of business maybe once a month. They weren't writing a ton of business. And because of that, yeah, one piece of business fell off. Well, then there's a chargeback there. And it's like they're not consistently writing to pay that chargeback back. Uh, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, anything outside of like the go-to, when you don't have a lot of business coming in, I think it makes sense to just set it up as earned. And when you write it, you write it. And like you said, that as earned business. I mean, I have one contract right now as earned, but now that you say that, I'll probably maybe even consider moving a few of my others as
Yeah.
earned to make sense.
I think what's interesting too is when agents begin to struggle and they fall away from that path towards success, is some of the things they start to say to me is, well, I need more carriers. I need this one and that one and that one and this one. And why I'm not succeeding is I don't have that. Well, there are plenty of ultra successful Lincoln Heritage agents. There's plenty of ultra successful Bankers Life and American Income and Senior Life. They're all very successful and they don't need multiple super price competitive companies to do it. Like, that's okay to have one, competitive Transamerica or Polish Falcons or KSKJ. But the reason you're not succeeding is not that you need another carrier, is that you need to give another presentation.
Yeah, again, the consistency, more people you see, makes sense. Let's see. And yeah, I got another slide here too. It might be coming up soon. Got a little Christmas present coming for you guys next week. So we'll talk about that here in a minute. So much of, I think, what we talk about kind of comes right back to number 21 here. Work ethic is key. We can just grind this thing down on the ground, I guess, as much as we want. I mean, at the end of the day, and I've said this many times, there's no sense in even watching these trainings and spending all this time to learn if you don't want to just get out there and do it. You got to be willing to just get out there and do it. Set your hours, set your schedule, set up appointments, hire an appointment setter if you have to. But just figure out a way to make sure that this is a career and not a hobby. Make sure that you're putting that time in, because if you're not putting the time in, you're not going to be successful. And I think that's any job out there. Like you said earlier, Chris, I mean, even if you're working a 9-to-5 job, it's not like you can just leave at 2:00 in the afternoon if you feel like it. And another analogy, I guess I'd say, or comparison, would be a day where, again, I'm in Chicago or outside of Chicago. We have some pretty snowy days, and I've had agents that, oh, well, God, it's a snowstorm, I can't work today. And if you had a 9-to-5 salary job, would your boss let you stay home on a day where there's a snowstorm? I mean, no, you're going to have to figure out a way to get into work. So that's kind of the mindset I've always had. Oh, who cares if it's snowing? I'm going to figure out a way to go out and see people. Fortunately, I have an SUV, can kind of get through the snow pretty well. If I didn't, I could always go rent one if I needed to for a day. Again, you can always figure out reasons to go work if you really put your mind to it.
Yeah, I love that one. My car's not working. Well,
Yeah.
You know how much renting a car costs? As much as like one lead. And then you go out there and you write one piece of business and you're still profitable and you still did something during that day. And then you work hard enough to maybe have an extra car. I mean, I don't mean this in a pretentious manner, but you can do these kind of things with this job. Like, you really can. You can make enough money or make enough excuses. It's up to you to decide which it's going to be.
Yeah. Do you know who's going to be home on during a snowstorm? Pretty much all of our clients. They're not running errands during a snowstorm. They're going to be home all day. So, I mean, you can go out and door knock leads on a day like that, and you're going to get in a lot of houses. I mean, I know from experience. Set goals. Set goals, a annual, a monthly, a weekly, a daily. We talk about that too, Chris. For one thing, think about how much money you want to make for the year. You can break that down into a monthly goal, into a weekly goal, all the way down into a daily goal. And 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 I know me and you, we both kind of do this very similarly, where we don't focus on annualized premium. We focus on monthly premium. So,
Mhm.
like if you want to write 6,000 in premium for the week, that means you have to write 5,000 of, or I'm sorry, $500 of monthly premium for the week. So break it down into smaller numbers that feel more achievable than focusing on the big numbers that maybe you just overwhelm yourself and feel like are going to be impossible to be able to reach.
Yeah, I think it's so important too to make your weekly goal budget based. Like if you're on a training, you watch this someday in the future and you don't know what this is, please reach out and we'll walk you through it. It's so simple. We don't have time today to break it down, but your weekly production goal needs to be based on your budget. Like do you have a budget? Do you not have a budget? That's a whole different problem. How much do you need to make on a monthly basis? How much is your leads? Throw in some persistency divided by 4. Throw in your contract level. You'll figure out how much you need to write for your budget. And when you know that your weekly goal is how much money I need to make to pay my bills, it starts to become an uncompromisable situation. Like I need to write $32.50 a week or $300 a month of premium, or my bills aren't paid. Well, then I'm going out. I'm making it happen. I'm staying out later. I'm starting on time. When your goal is just some ethereal number that sounds nice because somebody said it on Facebook, it doesn't matter. Like writing 10K a week is irrelevant. It doesn't mean anything to you. But that 3,200 or that 300 a month that you need to write to pay your mortgage, oh, that's going to happen. That is unforgivable for it not to happen. And then
I mean,
one
that's
more.
what
Then
should
one
get
more.
you up every morning. Yeah.
One more. And when you know what that number is, guess what happens? You don't even need to check your bank account. I know this sounds like terrible financial advice, but I've done it and it works because your bank account is either going to slow you down or piss you off. Like, oh, I got enough money in there today. I don't have to go out. There's a dusting of snow, but I've got $5,000 in the bank. I don't have to work. I don't look because it doesn't help motivate me. What motivates me is knowing if I write 417, I hit my goal, enough money goes in the bank. I can do the same thing again. And that's it. Like I'll look if I got to buy something big, but all that I look at is 417. And if I know that number is hit, everything else works itself out.
Yeah. I mean, and especially, you could be on a roll and, having a really good week. And then you don't want to just slow down. I mean, you slow down, things can turn pretty quickly. I mean, heck, I was on a roll even a few weeks back. And then, I took off a few days with Thanksgiving and everything else. And sometimes it's tough to kind of get back into the swing. It's like, man, I was doing really good. And then it's almost like you're just kind of starting over again, having to like kind of get back out there and remotivate yourself.
I
So
heard an interesting comment at a school meeting from one of my kids. And they even identified in the educational system that there is like noticeable problems getting kids back on track after breaks. So if they notice that in the school system and in education and with 9 and 10 and 11-year-olds, then what? Of course, it's going to be the same for us. Like they see that there's gaps and lapses and difficulty restarting after a few days off. So of course you're going to have that same difficulty. So don't give yourself too much time off.
hey, good advice. Do that little extra, and that could be anything. That could be knocking on some doors around your leads. That could be, when you're in a senior apartment building, to go and talk to the event coordinator, maybe work on setting up an event. You ever need help with that stuff, reach out to us. It's really not that difficult, but I've done them in the past. It's something you don't want to be your main focus, but you can definitely maybe set a few hours aside to sit and speak with some people and maybe get some leads out of it and maybe write a few additional apps every month. So, again, just do that little extra. You see somebody sitting on the front porch next door to your lead, why not walk up to them? I mean, what's the worst thing that can happen? They tell you no, or they let you in and you make $500. So, again, it's those again that are going to succeed are those that are willing to maybe do what others are not willing to do.
Mm-hmm. It's the one more philosophy. It's like dial one more a number, knock one more door, give one more presentation, just one more. And then after the one more, do another one more. Like all you got to do is focusing on one more at a time, and you'll be surprised what the results come from that.
And this is the Christmas present that's coming next week for you guys. Chris and I are going to be talking about how you can earn $200,000 in 2024. I used to talk about 100,000, how you can make 100,000 in a year, but these days, I saw an article last week actually that talked about how these days 100,000 is like people are just getting by. So I'm like, well, I mean, we've both done this, 200,000 in a year in income. We know how to do it. We can show other people how to do it. So as long as you're up for it, Chris, I thought that it'd be a good one for next Monday.
Sounds good. Sounds like a great present and practical tips on how that can be done because we've done it years and years at a time.
Yeah, and it's very doable in this business if you put your mind to it. So we're not talking about 100,000. You're going to want to be on this next Monday. I mean, we're going to talk about things that we've done and we know will work for you to help you earn $200,000 or more next year.
Sounds
And,
good.
you take good notes, put it all into your daily routine, and there's no reason why it shouldn't work unless, like what we're talking about today, unless you kind of get off track with what we teach you. So don't miss out on the growth potential in the business. This isn't for everybody, but I mean, I feel like, again, we talk about seniors and how many baby boomers there are that are kind of in that category of people who need final expense insurance. I mean, the market's getting bigger and bigger. I don't think it's ever going to go away. And don't miss out on that. Don't miss out on if you're looking to build and grow. I mean, there's lots of potential out there to build and grow. I was a personal producer for years, just going out and writing business. And I was happy. I was doing well financially until I realized that there were people out there that were making 10 times as much as I was or more. And I'm like, how are you guys doing that? Well, that's how they were doing it. They were building up their agency. They were working with agents. Basically, they were teaching people how to do something the same way that they did it. Basically what me and Chris are doing. So again, don't miss out on the growth potential. And I would recommend get good at it first, learn it to the point where you can bring people on where they have questions. You're able to answer those questions. You don't always have to reach out to your boss or your upline or whatever you want to call them. Once you're good enough to do well and write a good amount of business, why not bring some people on and teach them and help them be successful as well?
You got to find out a way to challenge yourself after you figure this basics out of the business. Are you going to grow into the Medicare side? Are you going to grow into the annuity side? Are you going to grow into the growing side? Challenge yourself because you get to a point which is perfectly fine where it becomes mundane and routine and almost maybe monotonous. And that's okay because that means you figured it out. But now it's time to challenge yourself. And I look at it this way, Adam. Someone had a conversation with me one day, or I had a conversation with somebody about this business, and they taught me the business. So why shouldn't you do the same thing for somebody else? Like you were gifted this opportunity at one point through a conversation. Have that conversation with somebody else because this time of year, the end of the year, people are looking to make a change in their IMO, change in their agency, change in their business, a change in their career. A conversation you or I or somebody else can have could change the trajectory of somebody else's life. So we deserve to have that conversation.
And, nothing against those that have built up big organizations and been very successful. But I just always had that mindset. Heck, if they can do it, I just got to figure out what they're doing. And I can do the same thing. It's just a matter of, again, putting a plan in place and making it work. I mean, people, they get out of bed every morning the same way I do. It's just a matter of, being consistent with everything. And so, that's just kind of the mindset I've always had. If someone else can do it, there's no reason why I can't. I just got to figure out what they're doing.
So true.
So, keep up with technology. I think that's big these days in our business. I mean, you don't want to be writing paper applications.
What
I
the heck?
mean, why would you want to write a paper application when you can write a electronic application and you're basically getting everything done right then and there. You're receiving the underwriting decision with most of the companies. It's making your job a heck of a lot easier. Even the different quoting and stuff. I mean, agents would be calling me about, can you email me a rate sheet? What do you need a rate sheet for? I mean, I
Oh,
understand maybe if you don't have an internet connection, but you should be able to look up the rates right on your phone. So,
yeah. I'll email
keep
you
up
the
with
link.
technology.
Yeah, here's the link to sign up for insurance toolkits. I'm not going to email you a rate sheet. Oh, I'm not going to spend $40 a month on something. Well, then you're in the wrong business. Like, could you walk into a franchise owner at a McDonald's and say, I'm not going to spend $40 on tech for my store? No, I mean, come on with it. I'm going to add to that. Don't go cheap on your technology. Like, you don't have a ton of inventory. Inventory is leads. You don't have a ton of overhead. You don't need a big store, an office, or most of that stuff in most of the cases. So don't go cheap on your technology. Like, if you say to yourself right now, I cannot afford a new iPad. Well, finance it through Verizon. It's like an extra $50 a month on your bill. Write one extra policy a month. It's paid for. You really can afford it. It's not that big of a deal. Well, my phone screen is broken and I can't see. Come on. Like, be serious about what you're doing here and don't go cheap on your technology. And I don't mean this in a pretentious way. I'll buy the biggest iPad that goes the fastest and I'll run it into the ground for 5 years. Then I'll do the same thing again. Don't go cheap on what makes your business run better.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? I mean, one example myself. For years, I was using a CRM, and I mean, the great thing about the CRM, I was able to just multitask. It was keeping me up, helping me keep up with everything. Again, when you're building an agency and working with a lot of agents, I mean, if you're just using like spreadsheets and stuff, it's a lot to keep up with. The CRM definitely helped. The one that I was using happened to go out of business, and I was trying to find a new one, uh, and I couldn't find one that I really really loved for a long time. And honestly, I feel like because it took so long to find a replacement for that other CRM, I mean, I feel like I lost thousands of dollars. Where maybe I could have gotten one that wasn't perfect, but would have done the job to kind of keep me up with things. But now I'm finally back on track with a lot of this stuff, and I'm telling you, boy, it makes my life a heck of a lot easier. Where then I can automate a lot of stuff that's going to help me to do the stuff that's most important right now that I can't do manually, or that I can't do, uh, that way, that I have to do manually. So, just little things like that. I mean, had I just done this a while back, I mean, it probably wouldn't have, maybe would have built up a little bit quicker. So, but like I said, I mean, like anything else, we all learn. Again, like Chris said, you don't want to go cheap. But toolkit $40 a month. Heck, I mean, that's the cost of one lead. That's how I look at it. I mean, I pay $40 a month for toolkit. I don't think anything of it. I mean, it's
Exactly.
making me money. Without having it, I probably wouldn't be making as much money.
It's like a good
Because,
filtering question. Yeah.
yeah,
Are you going to
for
sign up for
sure.
this? Nope. All right. I'm not going to work with you.
Yeah. Uh, good or bad, always hold yourself accountable. Uh, this is just something that I strongly believe in. We talk about that a lot, just the accountability. And I was listening to a podcast last night, Chris, that you and Nick did, that I'll be posting. It'll probably be published either tomorrow or Wednesday. But you guys talked a little bit about that, about just the self accountability, and how there's people out there that'll complain about how they weren't trained good enough, or the leads weren't any good. But, and like you mentioned, I think Nick mentioned in his podcast, he mentioned that he sees people posting about how every upline is the same and nobody's out there to help people. And you said, well, if people are going from upline to upline to upline, maybe it's not the upline, maybe the person actually, maybe they should look in the mirror. Maybe they should look in the mirror and say, hey, maybe it's me. Maybe I'm the reason I'm not succeeding. Maybe it has nothing to do with the training. Maybe they're providing me sufficient training. Maybe the leads are fine. Maybe it's me. I mean, heck, if I go everywhere and have the same results, but other people are doing well at those places, is it really the organization, or is it myself?
Yeah, I hate it's the hardest thing to hear. Like it's probably your fault. I don't want it to be my fault. I do not want it to be my it might be like your upline, your agency, your IMO is responsible for like framework kind of stuff, but they're not going to dress you, they're not going to drive you there, they're not going to open the door and hit submit or enroll or do the presentation. Most of it's on you. Like you are a self-employed business owner. Means that's you.
And and again, I mean, I think it's good to find a home and
Absolutely.
work with people that you like working with, where you're going to enjoy what you do every day, and just go with it. Stick with it. And I think in the end, everything will work out. I just, it's again, I mean, you got to hold yourself accountable. Uh, and with anything, I mean, honestly, I kind of feel that way with all parts of life. All of the decisions we make, wherever we're at in life is kind of based off of those decisions that we've made in the past, good or bad.
Yeah.
So if I'm not where I want to be in my career at the current moment, well, it's because of things that I have done in the past. It's my own fault. I mean, I hold myself accountable for everything. I mean, I don't like to play the blame game. In the end, I mean, I know that I can be successful anywhere I go,
Mhm.
as long as as long as I continue. Again, everything we talked about with just consistency and everything else.
If it's to be, it's up to me.
Somebody asked here about the three primary carriers. Uh, do you mind sharing, Chris, what you would say your three go-tos are right now?
I have a video on our channel. If you scroll back probably about a year at this point with over
Okay.
250 videos, which is pretty cool. But because products come and go, and what we're talking about today in 2023 could be completely irrelevant carrier wise in 2 years, I like to be generic about it. I like to, because a lot of ones might fit this. Carrier number one in your bag, 85% of your business can be placed with them. It's price competitive, doesn't have to be the cheapest, but in that top tier. Takes direct express ideally and provides an instant decision. I think you really need to be doing an instant decision in 99% of the time, especially with tech nowadays. So 85% of your business priced competitively, fair with underwriting. Maybe they've got that standard tier kind of category you can place a good amount of your business with. Carrier number two, the 10% the other one doesn't do. So maybe the number one didn't do direct express, so number two needs to. Maybe number one is average rate, so you need ultra competitive. Like find the 10% that number one didn't do and do it in number two. And then number three, it's probably GI kind of carrier or a high face amount carrier like a Baltimore Life or a Foresters or a high age range carrier. I mean, products really do come and go. KSKJ has a new one coming out any day now. It's going to change a lot about what we say carrier wise with products. Products come and go at the end of the year. But that third carrier, it's probably your GI carrier, which should be 5% or less of your general business. Maybe it's a Citizens Life, a 0 to 85 carrier kind of a situation. But sit down and look at all of your companies and think to yourself, who can I take out of my bag and keep it simple? And when you add a new carrier, probably take another one out of your bag. Like less is more. Top three companies. Who can I do the most with? Number two, who doesn't do what number one did? And then all else fails. Who else can I use from there?
I'd recommend go back on my YouTube. Chris and I did 2 trainings talking about some carriers
Mm-hmm.
that maybe you don't have that you should. And we went through, I think, about 7 or 8 different companies, and we just kind of went over the benefits of why it's good to do business with them. And I think it's good. It's good. Maybe the agent then can kind of take a look and say, okay, well, that seems like a company that would fit what I'm looking to do. I don't think there's one perfect company out there.
No.
Like you said, I mean, if there was, I mean, heck, you would just need that one company. But usually, like you said, there's that 10% that the first one's not going to do, and then maybe just another one after that. Like a good guaranteed issue or something. Uh, but yeah, go back and go back on to my YouTube, and you can find those videos. And I'm actually planning on posting some carrier spotlight videos too pretty soon here. So you'll be
Yeah,
seeing those pop up probably within the next week or two, or maybe even
absolutely.
sooner. We'll see how much I get done today. uh, so then let's see. We are just about done. I think this is just the last one, number 27. Love what you do. Uh, Pretty simple. I mean, if you don't love what you're doing, why do it? I mean, if you don't love uh, selling insurance, maybe you're going out there and going out and seeing people and working the leads, and maybe it's just not enjoyable. We've talked about that. It's not for everybody. Uh, but learn to love it. If you see the income is good and you like that part of it, well, learn to love it. I'd recommend even, I mean, I've done it. If you write business and your client passes away, go to the funeral. I've done it. Go to the funeral. You'll see why this is so important. You'll see what it's actually doing for families. And I think when you see that, you'll realize that, maybe ten or $15,000 to some people isn't a lot of money, but it really makes the worst day in a lot of families' life a lot easier because their loved one planned ahead, because we were out there to help them make that decision.
What's also amazing is you can use this business to fuel your passion. Like maybe final expense isn't your passion, but you're really good at it and you know how to do it and you know how to do it well. But you can use it to fuel a passion for fostering animals or community service or community involvement or who knows. But once you figure this whole darn thing out, maybe it isn't the most exciting thing and it gets your heart rate up, but you can use it to fuel other things important to you in your life too. So I think that's a pretty amazing part of what we can do.
And then, check out Unity Life Group. You can go to my website, unitylifegroup.com/careers. Feel free to shoot over an inquiry. Always looking to bring on, new agents, new talent, whether you're new to the business, whether you're experienced, we have places for everybody. In-home sales, telesales platforms also available, lead programs. You're never going to run out of people to see. That's really the most important part. As you can see, we have our weekly trainings, ongoing support. Again, we have this Facebook group page, Insurance Life and everything in between, over 2,000 members, people that are just there to share ideas and to help one another to be successful on a daily basis. And we also have just great opportunities to help you build and grow, multiply your income. We've talked about that. Maybe you're an agent that's done well. You just don't really know the next steps if you really want to build. We can help you with that. And contracts, those, good contracts too, for those that maybe already have a team that are looking to maybe make a move. Feel free to reach out. Just be more than happy to help. You can go to adambrsan.com/training and also the YouTube for additional training. So that's about all we have for this morning. Thanks again, everybody, for hopping on. And I hope you all have a great week. And remember, you are not going to want to miss next Monday, where Chris and I are going to break down a plan that's going to show you how you can earn over $200,000 next year.
That's pretty exciting.
If you're not making it now, well, we'll show you what we have done to earn that sort of income, maybe even a little bit more. So look forward to next week. Look forward to seeing you guys again next week. You will be receiving an email at some point this week to hop on the next training, and we'll see you same time, same place next Monday, 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central. And thanks again, Chris, for all of your help as well.
See you on next week.
Sounds good. Thanks a lot.